Good. Well, welcome everybody to our webinar tonight on Homeschooling 101. I'm not going to show you my picture because I've just been bike riding and now I have helmet hair. So this is me. This is actually me with Sir Ken Robinson, Teachers Convention a few years ago. So that's kind of what I look like, but with really flat hair right now. So if you're at this webinar, you're probably thinking about home education or for the fall, or just even looking at what your options are. So hopefully we'll cover them with a few slides. And please, this is your time to ask questions and get your niggling worries settled. So everybody is a homeschooler actually. From birth to age 5, you teach your children, you contract out their education either to preschools or toddler play groups or even library programs. So you are a veteran home educator already. You've been doing it for 5 years. You can absolutely carry on for the next time. So in Alberta, the regulations are under a parent home education program, you're really a general contractor. If you look at a home renovation, if you decide to be the general contractor of your home renovation, you're the one who outsources the electrician, the plumber, the drywaller. You choose the materials, you do all of those things. And basically, that's what you do for your child's education. Alberta recognizes that every parent has their child's best interests, and you are their first and best teachers. And if you choose to outsource your child's education to a school, which 95% of people do, that's okay. However, you are still in charge of your child's education. And if you decide to take 100% responsibility for it, whether or not you teach is what you can do under home education. Now, if you're like me, my math ends at grade 8. So, but I homeschooled my children, all 5 of them, right through to grade 12. What do? You can outsource it. So you can procure tutors, you can set up or join co-ops with like-minded other parents, get together and maybe hire a freelance teacher to teach certain subjects. You can outsource education to your nanny or your childcare arrangement. You can outsource teaching to your child. Many people do. It's called self-directed education, or more commonly, unschooling. Or you can just stay off the grid totally and get your child involved or enrolled in other online courses that are not provided by Alberta school boards. There are a lot of schools, virtual schools, and virtual courses out there that you can enroll your child in. So if you haven't guessed by now, students are borderless. You do not have to enroll your child in the neighborhood school down the street. You do not have to use your resident school board, whether that be Edmonton Public or Calgary. You can choose any willing school authority in the province to oversee you contracting out your child's education. Now, registering with a school authority is one of the rules in Alberta, and we'll cover what those rules are. Okay, oh, that's where he went. I wondered, where was my general contractor? So my name is Judy Arnall, and I am by profession, I teach child development, brain development, and family communication. So that's who I am. I've been homeschooling my children, like I said, 5 kids. Didn't think I'd do it all the way to high school, but they loved it, and we just kept on going. So I've written the Happy Homeschooling Handbook, which goes into detail a lot of what I cover tonight. And I've also written a big, thick 384-page book called Unschooling to University, because I like to say we were homeschoolers that never got around to homeschooling. I pulled my kids out of school when the oldest boys were grade 2 and grade 1, because the system did not meet either of their needs. One had a learning disability, the other one was super smart, and they didn't like school. So we thought, okay, let's try this for a year. You only sign up for a year, and let's see what happens. And we were homeschoolers that went out a lot. We were community schoolers. We did a lot of fun activities, we played, and after a while the kids stopped listening to me and just carried on learning whatever they were learning. And they did that until high school. So except for math, they didn't have any formal education until high school. And then they self-directed a high school program. 4 of them went on to university, 3 of them graduated university, 1 is still there, and 1 is about to enter. So we think teachers are amazing what they're dealing with in this time. And even when we're not going through this time, they are amazing in the classroom. But a lot of times what happens with the system does not take our child's best interests into heart. And that's why we decide we're going to take control. So this is kind of my little guy. So he went to school for the first 2 years, and he'd come home and he'd really want to learn things like, if I planted an egg, would it grow an egg tree? And I was doing a lot of after schooling, and I thought, oh man, let's just pull you out. And a lot of his other schools around our neighborhood were closing anyway. So I thought, can't do any harm, let's try it for a year. And those years turned into the best 15 years of my life. And like I said, we tried school at home, but as you're doing now, probably it's distance education. It's not true homeschooling. When you truly homeschool, you have control over everything. Assignments, curriculum, what you want to teach, when you want to teach it, how you want to teach it, who you want to teach it, where you want to teach it. You have all control over that, where right now you have no control. You are just the parents supervising the homework on a distance education program. So having said that, my kids really hated formal learning. And I just didn't want to fight with them anymore. So we just played, followed their interests a lot more. And we all just had a fantastic time. So yeah, that's what we did for 10 years. We played, we traveled, they played a lot of video games. It was fun. And I asked them to write the provincial achievement tests, and they actually did. And they all scored really good, like within average range, and a few did excellent range. So there's their first full day of school, grade 10, 11, and 12, different kids. But at various times, they didn't stay, because when they hit high school, they thought, wait a minute, I'm spending a lot of time in this classroom where I could get the work done in an hour at home and have the rest of the day to myself. So they did. They didn't finish high school that way. And they wrote 21 diploma exams, and their average was about 78%, where the provincial average is 65%. So you want to consider that when kids are burning out from 16 years of school, they start preschool at age 2, they are burning out by grade 8. Where is it not better to have a more relaxed, more fun learning environment, and then gear up for the years that count, the high school years? Might want to consider that. Okay, so talked about that. Yes, so when my kids graduated high school, a lot of their friends were too, that were unschoolers. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book about this, because 30 of their friends, or my friends as kids, actually entered university, colleges, tech schools, and out of those 30, 22 now have graduated. 10 were in STEM, 10 were in the arts, and 10 were in humanities. And we actually had even 4 engineers there. So I have written several books on parenting. That's my latest. And you've probably found us on Facebook somewhere. So let's assume you want to leave all doors open for your child, as a lot of parents do. They want to make sure their kids can have opportunities, whatever they want to do. And absolutely you can. I know some people say that your child cannot earn a diploma on home education, and that is just not true. Okay, they absolutely can go to university. So this here is, these are the 4 education choices in the province right now. 95% of kids go to public or Catholic schools, okay? Yes, they do classroom print or online, but that is still school. You can register with an independent school. Some of them offer classroom print or online, but that's still school too. Same with charter schools. The only difference is in this last corner here under home education. When you home educate, you do not have to follow the 1,400 outcomes of the Alberta programs of study per grade. Absolutely don't have to. You can customize your program to what you think is important for your child to learn, and you can present up-to-date things. Currently, some of the materials and the Alberta Program of Studies is over 15 years old. It is outdated. My son's social studies textbook for grade 10 was written before smartphones were out. So you can do better. You can get much more current resources to teach what you want to teach. So that's a good thing about home education. You have flexibility in our province. You do not have to teach anything that you don't want to teach. And you get funding. This year you get $850 per child per year to offset the cost of the resources. Okay. Your child is coded in PASI, and these are the codes. So the only thing you have control on is code 600 home education. You do not have control on some of the shared responsibility because you're sharing the responsibility with the school or with distance education, online or print-based. Okay, this is kind of stuff. One thing you should know, grades 1 to 9 is based on outcomes. Like I said, there's 1,400 outcomes across 6 subjects from grades 1 to 6. High school is outcomes per course. Okay, so you can follow the Alberta Program of Studies if you want. A lot of parents do because they're a little worried that their kids are going to miss out. They want to keep up with the school program. And generally when people start homeschooling, that's what they do. They want the comfort level of knowing that their kids are aligning with school, and then they let go of that because they realize how much more their kids are learning. And then they move into a more relaxed homeschooling and they see how much more their kids are learning. And then a lot of them move into a more unschooling, let kids self-direct their learning because the kids are still learning. So I want to assure you in this time, if you just quit school now, say we're not doing this anymore, your children will have May, June, July, August, will have another 4 months. They will continue their learning in numeracy, in literacy, in science, social studies, health, you name it, they will continue. Because people don't just learn in school. School is one, right here, of many ways people learn. This is from Inspiring Education back in 2011, the province-wide input into the future of education. So basically, there's 2 ways to get an education. There's school, which is government controlled, and that can be through a physical class, through online, through blended shared responsibility, through correspondence, through distributed learning, through distance education. And the other way is home education, parent or student controlled. Be very careful of who controls it. When I say control, I mean who makes the decisions, who chooses the curriculum. School has to follow the Alberta programs of study. Home education is the only program in the province that you can follow whatever you want, that you can do the curriculum of Nintendo if you want. Absolutely. Okay, so there's lots of reasons people choose home education. Number one is bullying. Number two is a child's special needs are not being met. Number three is a lot of people want to just go off and travel, although that's not really a reason right now. Not at all. And there's a lot of other reasons that every family does it for a certain reason. The history, home education really got started in Alberta in 1985. There were 55 students, and it's grown to over about 13,000 right now. So in 30 years, it's grown very much so. Okay, I'm gonna skip through a few of these slides that you don't need to see. Okay, so the Fraser Institute has published 2 reports in 2007 and 2015. If you have naysayers in your family, I would point them to this. You can Google this on the web. The 2015 report is more Canada-based, which is kind of nice. They found that home-educated children are involved in 8 social activities a week, normally. That kind of throws that socialization question out the window. They do academically better than private schools. It's been growing, and there is no socioeconomic status bias, which means that parents do not have to be teachers, and they do not have to have money to do an awesome, awesome job homeschooling their children. So in Alberta, there's basically 3 rules we have to follow. We must notify a supervising school authority somewhere in Alberta that will take on your child. So you just submit a notification form. It's a notification. It is not an application or a registration. That's a big difference, because you have the right to pull your child out of a school and to take on their education. You also have to file an education plan, and we have lots of templates on the Alberta Homeschooling website of what it looks like. So you have to follow 22 outcomes if you want to choose the solo outcomes rather than follow the Alberta Curriculum Program of Studies. And you must have a facilitator from your supervising school come out and visit you twice per year to do 2 evaluations. That's it. We're a little more rule-minded than other provinces, but part of that is assuring the public that these children are progressing in relation to their past achievements, not to a cohort of classmates. And it also assures the naysayers that kids are getting an education. So step 1 is, let's say you decide, yeah, I'm going to go for this in the fall. So step 1 is you, this summer, notify your school and say, my kid's not coming back. Then you can pick another school authority to register with. You should do it before September 30th, because September 30th is count date. Who your child is registered for gets the funding. If you register after September 30th, you will not get funding. Your school authority will not get funded, and they'll be reluctant to take you on. Well, not you, but your children. So if you decide, let's say you're sending your children to school and in November you want to pull them out, okay? Your school owns your child for next year. So they got the funding. All you have to do is submit a notification to Home Educate, and you're with them. They have to supervise you, but you have just entered the general contractor seat. You are now in charge of their education. This is what the notification form looks like. It's a 4-page form. We have a video on our website on how to fill out each sections and what they mean. Okay, step 2 is choosing a school board. Many parents find that tricky. And it's really tricky, especially this year because the funding model has changed. Things are changing daily and weekly. Alberta Education is sorting out what that means and what the problems inherently are faced by school authorities and parents. So it's best to rather ask questions on social media. Please, please, please call up the school board and ask them to explain it to you, what their programs and their rules are. But your resident school board can be anyone in Alberta, so you can register with Peace River, even if you're down in Lethbridge. They can supervise you, and even more so over Zoom. A lot of the facilitator visits this spring have been over Zoom. Save your receipts now if you buy something, even secondhand. Get a name, contact, and receipts. Save those because on October 1st, you can submit those to your school authority for your $850 in funding. If you decide this year, not working out, you can just put them back in the next grade next year. Okay, it goes by age. They're not going to test your child and say, oh, they're behind, they have to repeat a grade. It's not going to happen. Okay, and there's no funding for homeschool kindergarten. Now, we have a big list on our website. We've been working on it all week on the distinctions between all these school authorities. They have been upgrading the list, so please, please, please look at that for that might find a better fit for you, because we have school authorities that are faith-based, some are secular, some are more geared to high school, some are more geared to online. The common thing of all of them is that they all offer home education where you're the general contractor. They all offer that for the most flexibility. Now, if you don't want that, if you want school or distance education, they all offer variations of online and shared responsibility, and it's all across the board. So again, call them up, find out what you need per child per year. And you know what? You can pick a different board for each child too. One year I had 4 school boards because each of my kids were different ages and needed different things. So you can customize this. Yeah, it's a little bit more of a pain because you have more facilitator visits, but it's not that bad. Okay. Ask them what their funding rules are over and above the government rules. They all have different rules of their own. You can ask what activities they offer, although when school boards are supervising home education, that generally means parents provide their own activities. They're not in a position that they have to provide activities for your child because it's not school. It is your responsibility to provide those activities. And there's tons of activities that are on Facebook. People organize them. They get people together. Check out your city Facebook, and another keyword is homeschooling, and another keyword is activities, and you will find them. Okay, ask if they have staff professional development in home education, or have their facilitators home educated their own kids. It's kind of like non-parents teaching parenting. They just cannot understand what it's like. So it's a good question. You know, you do need support that first year. You need a lot of hand holding, and someone who's been there is really comforting. Talk to people who grumble as well as people who rave, because yes, how do people How have school authorities handled complaints is probably a good one. And same with high school. If you have a child going into high school, compare course requirements for either online or parent directed. They are way, way different. Online courses are designed to be heavy, heavy work. Lots of assignments, lots of quizzes, because they can't see the student. They need feedback through output. Whereas if you're doing a parent controlled course, you can determine how many assignments you give your child. There's a big difference. And think about, what's your philosophy of education? Do you prefer a more relaxed, child-led, interest-led approach, or do you prefer a more, I want to teach the school curriculum approach? Okay, one thing to keep in mind is that young children learn through their 5 senses. So the more they can do experiential learning, the better. Here's the development of the prefrontal cortex, which is that front part of the brain. Alberta Education does not recommend online courses for children under age 10. So that's right here. And even so, if they're doing online courses, you have to be the motivator and the prodder. That's your job. Because the content and the learning is between the teacher and the student. You are just like the parent with the homework. That's all you do is support, support, support. Make sure the kids do the work. You do not teach. The only program you teach is home education, if you want to do it. Okay. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of parents unschool. So their kids play from age 0 to age 6, and they just keep on playing and learning where other kids go off to school. And then at the end, their children take exams, their children do maybe a high school courses, and off they go on to post-secondary. Okay, step 4, once you pick your school authority, by now you've probably picked your program too. Like I said, traditional home education, and you have to look for the words home education. A lot of school authorities are using the words homeschooling because that's the common word out there that people think is home education. But homeschooling can also be school in your home, which you do not control, okay? Homeschooling can also mean distance education. So if you want control, you want to outsource or be the general contractor, look for home education. That's the only program you have all the rights to do these things. You can choose the methods. You can choose to follow Alberta Program of Studies or the solo outcomes, which are only 22 outcomes. You can choose your resources. You can choose your methods, self-directed. You can choose your assessments, and your child does not have to take any tests, none at all. You do not have to give marks. Okay, and then the other program is distance education, and that is school controlled. It's also called teacher-directed, paper-based resource, online, correspondence, blended, and the school part of shared responsibility. The school chooses the resources, and they have to follow the Alberta programs of study. They choose the method, they choose to deliver it, they choose the assessment, including exams and marks, and there is no funding for parents. You will have report cards, and you will probably have parent-teacher interviews. It's just like school, only it's in your living room. Shared responsibility. Now this is changing for fall. It used to be an 80-20% split just for high school, but it's going to be that for grades 1 to 9. So you can take one subject. Let's say you like teaching math and science. You can take those and say, I'm going to be responsible for math and science. I'm going to outsource back to the school to be responsible for English, social, health, phys ed, and art. Okay, so then But the school this year, the funding's changed. The school can now dip into your part of the home education funding to pay for their teaching because they have to teach that. Alrighty, and on all those programs, your child can get a diploma. Under home education, they can ask your school authority to review their portfolio, see if they've met the course outcomes enough, assign a mark, and see if the school authority approves that mark and records it or reports it. These are what the 22 outcomes look like. If you want to follow the solo, there's only 22 outcomes kids have to know by the time they're 20, not year by year, but by the time they're 20. So they compare themselves with how they were doing last year to this year. There's no marks given on that. It's super, super easy. Okay, we have a question. Are you saying that number 3, shared responsibility, is not good for children under 10? Well, it depends how the school delivers their part of the share. If they deliver their part of the share through activities, classrooms, experiential learning, then that is good for kids. But if they deliver it through online delivery, it's not recommended. That's too much screen time for kids under age 10. Good question. Thank you. Okay, so as you can see, and I've done this before, but my kids can play Animal Crossing and probably check off all of these outcomes. Absolutely. They're super flexible. So you don't have to worry. There's not a lot of paperwork or administration work required of parents because, hey, you're not getting paid to do that. Not under home education. So this is as much as we fill out at the end of the year. This is what we fill out at the beginning of the year. And you can change this at any time. It is not written in stone. If you want to buy something, let's say I want to buy Lego. I would put that under, understand the scientific method, the nature of science and technology, and their application to daily life. Figuring out how to build with Lego, I would stick under there, and that way I could go out and buy it and get it reimbursed. Yeah, so you have to, and let's say you don't get around to doing math that year. Didn't use math, didn't do math workbooks, didn't do math, and that's okay, just leave it blank. Didn't do this year, and that's fine. Okay, we have another question. So if homeschool is not working half the year, can they be put back into the school system, or do we need to wait until the new year? You can always go back into the school system if it doesn't work out. And usually a lot of the private independent schools will not take you back because they don't have to. They're schools of choice. But your local public school system, yes, you can put them back in there, and whether they get funding or not, they will take your child because they have to. They're publicly funded. So yes, you can. In fact, we used to use that to threaten our kids. You have to do those worksheets or you're going back to school. But no, that wasn't fun. We shouldn't do that. Okay, so yeah, so that's kind of those. Now, how do you know, like, look at your child's temperament. Are they easygoing? Are they more spirited? You want to be more relaxed if they're spirited. You do not want to fight with your children over doing work, okay? If they resist, if they don't get it, move on. Skip it, come back to it later. Don't make it a power struggle, okay? And the beauty is, if you're on a home education program, you can drop it. You can say, nah, we're not doing this. This isn't working. Homeschoolers do that all the time. We have so much curriculum sales, used curriculum sales, because that stuff didn't work for our kids. It might work for yours. So don't worry. You can be flexible. You can chop, change, find new resources. It's all good. How much time does it take? Even if you're following the Alberta Program of Studies, you know, those 1,400 outcomes, elementary takes about 10 to 30 minutes a day of book work, and that doesn't mean reading or field trips. Junior high, about an hour a day, and high school, my kids did it in about 2 to 3 hours per day for 2 cores and some options, and no homework. Compare this to online school. Like I said, online school has way more book work. My kids actually took Phys Ed 10 online. They had 50 hours of writing assignments to do, in addition to 75 hours of activity that was physical. That was unbelievable. They had essays, they had quizzes to do. That was just crazy, crazy, crazy. So we ditched that. We did Phys Ed through home education, and we just did 124 hours of activity and 1 hour of writing up a summary, which is what it's supposed to be. So, and a lot of homeschoolers never finish a year. That's a big secret, you know. We're human. We get distracted. We go on holidays. We have a new baby. We get a job change, a move. We get company. Someone gets sick. We don't finish, and we pack up the end of April, sometimes May, because we want to enjoy a super long summer. We don't often get started till October or November. We take Christmas off and we don't finish our curriculum. So we just put our kids in the next grade, start off a new year with new stuff, and they keep learning. So don't worry, they will keep learning. Okay, another question. Do you have to do a specific amount of days, 180? On home education, no. You can do 1 day of teaching all year, or you can do 200 days of teaching all year. You can follow the September to June school schedule, or you could be like us and do most of your learning during the summer months. It's incredible when you go on holidays what kids learn. So it's all up to you. It's your ball game. Another question, how do I know my child is doing good if I don't follow any curriculum? I mean, how do I know what level he is? And also, what can I do if my child only wants to study math and science? We say, like, if your child only wants to study math and science, we say, well, you know, offer things, but don't push or threaten. You want learning to be fun and enjoyable. So let it go, try it again another day, another way. The two things that children really, really need from grades 1 to 10 is literacy and numeracy. They need to learn to read. They need to learn to write. They need math skills. Everything else is local content. Like if you look at Ontario Science Program versus Alberta's, different topics. If you look at England's social studies versus Canada's social studies, local topics. So your children will learn those just by living life, just by, you know, following you around. So you want to focus on, can they read? Can they write? You know, and can they do math? And you can look on our website. We have outcomes. Maybe I'll take you through a tour here. Sorry. Okay. If you go to our website, you can see under resources. So this is what kids learn for each grade. This is the Alberta Program of Studies. For example, grade 1. In math, let's take math. Mathematics. They learn how to count numbers from 0 to 100. They can recognize at a glance arrangements of 1 to 10 objects, and they should be able to learn how to add and subtract to 20. You know what? You don't need a workbook to teach kids that. Many of them are already counting to 20 by grade 1. And if you know your child can do that, check it off, right? Um, shape and space in math can demonstrate an understanding of measurement. Do your kids use a tape measure? Do they pour water into a container? They're starting to understand that. Patterns in relations. Can they create patterns from their daily experiences? One example is a toy called Pattern Blocks or Lego. Do they, evenly space out little red blocks? You can figure that one out, right? For English, then, where is English? Oh, there we go. Kids are not expected to be able to read until the end of grade 1. And even then, Alberta education understands kids are different. It's like toilet training. Some do it at 18 months, some do it at 4.5 years. So the grades 1 to 3 are basically teaching kids to read, okay? If they're not reading by the end of grade 3, that's when the school's gonna worry and start doing an IPP for your child. Grades 4 to 6 is reading to learn. So that's why they want to get them reading in those first 3 years, because a lot of classroom learning is delivered through paper. Kids have to be reading to learn through paper. But at home, you don't have to do that. You can teach kids by going to the science center, by going to the zoo, by experience, because you're only working with a few kids. You can make it fun and come alive. And that's going to give your child the joy of education, right? So instead of looking at a book of birds at the school classroom, you can take them to the zoo and they can actually see and smell birds. So it's much different. So you can use these at a glance to kind of see what you should be doing per grade. But you don't have to follow this. And a lot of it, you're going to feel confident. Your child's going to learn anyways. Absolutely anyways. Now, these are sample home education plan templates. So let's do this again too. Let's do grade 4 here. Oops. And here's how we open it. So this is grade 4. So as you can see, if you want to follow the 22 outcomes of home education, here's outcome for English. You do library books, board games, iPad games, and you provide a list of books read. Write and speak as required. You provide one writing sample. Use mathematics. In grade 4, we did a lot of board games. We played with Lego. We used fraction pizza games. We used a play cash register to understand decimals, and we baked a lot. That's how my kids learn math. Science, you can go to the science center, the zoo, lots and lots of places. And social studies, we had a lot of discussions. Yeah, we didn't do very many. For phys ed, we did ski lessons, go for walks, go swimming, go skating. For appreciate the arts, we did a lot of theater, and we bought a lot of art supplies. Demonstrate critical and creative thinking skills. We played a lot of video games. I have a house full of gamers, okay? So look how easy this is. This is 2 pages. It shouldn't be any more. I hope that answers your question. Okay, we have more questions. Okay. Do you have to send a notification to Home Educate form to your current school, or will the board you sign up do this with you? If you sign up with a homeschool board by September, they will send a notice to your existing school saying that your child's not coming back and they want your child's file. So you don't have to do that. It's nice if you let your school know because they need to plan numbers too, but you don't have to. Your incoming school authority will let your old school know. Another question, if my child has delays, will this hinder their growth and learning? Can you receive supports if your child has language delays? If you need supports, you're going to have to go to Alberta Health Services for them, because on home education, the government doesn't fund supports. They fund it if you register for distance education, but not for home education. If your child has delays, that does not hinder their growth and learning. In fact, that's why we pulled our child out, is because you can customize their pace, their content, their difficulty. You can make things come alive for that child. I had 3 late readers. They didn't read until 9 or 10. And if they were in school, they would have been bullied, they would have been teased. But at home, we just didn't make a big deal about it. And one day it clicked. And if I could show you the 3-inch book my son is reading now, you wouldn't know that he didn't start reading at age 10. So having said that, if you're really worried or you need a educational psych assessment, you would have to pay for that out of your own pocket, and you would have to go to Alberta Homeschool or Alberta Health Services for supports. Okay, yes, you don't have to worry about next year because you already knows those things. Yes, you will be surprised how smart your kids are and how much they learn without you teaching. You will be. And that's why when we just unschooled, I asked my kids to write the provincial achievement test in math and English only, just because, you know, the science and social studies are topic-based that we probably didn't cover. And they did fine in math and English. They knew all that stuff just through living their life. Okay, another question. If we choose home education, not distance learning, can we obtain an appropriate curriculum to use as a guideline? Is this what various boards provide when we choose one? Yes, absolutely. Your school facilitator will help you choose curriculum if you want to follow the Alberta programs of study. Absolutely. But you have the flexibility to ditch what's not working and change, and that's good. Do these boards provide online class options too? Yes, a lot of the school boards do provide classes for home education students, but keep in mind, because you're in the driver's seat, you're the general contractor, you'll have to pay for those classes because the school board isn't getting paid to teach. You're going to have to pay them. So you're outsourcing again to get your child those classes. Hey, another question. You called our Argyle Center. Yes, you absolutely can switch to homeschooling at any time. You do not have to ask permission. You can send in the notification form, keep a copy, and just don't answer your phone. You're done. Done. Another question. When choosing a board, what is the difference between a public board and an independent? Okay, big differences. A public board is run by trustees. They have to let you into their home education program because they're publicly funded. Private independent schools only get 60 to 70% of what a public school board gets. So, and the rules seem to be different for them. They're at more of a disadvantage than public boards. And if our province is promoting choice in education, it doesn't make sense to me. How do you actually choose? I can give you general guidelines. Like if you choose a public board, you probably won't have facilitators that have homeschooled or even understand homeschooling. Because a lot of them don't get professional development in it. But the upside is they're less picky with receipts and what you buy, because chances are the government's not going to claw back the funding from them because they have economies of scale. They can cover it. An independent school more likely supports you in homeschooling and the uniqueness. Like they understand that every meeting you go to, you're bringing siblings and you're bringing children that need to be entertained. The first time I walked into a public school board facilitator meeting with my kids, they kind of looked at me like, oh, you come with children. Yeah, we're a family, we come with kids, right? So the more independent schools understand it a bit better. They can provide support and ideas and help you when you're having issues. If you have a bad day or your child resisting something, they can provide a lot of options. They know what's out there in terms of, and they'll put your mind at ease. They're amazing. So yeah, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. Okay, question. Will we as home educators be able to access some of the online and print resources that teachers have access to? Yes, a lot of them do. They have, they buy licenses every year and give you the codes so you can access those too, just as they do, for sure. Okay, what else? Okay, your boys are 8 and 9. We don't want a faith-based school, so do you have a top pick? I'm sorry, I can't recommend one board over another. I've been with 10 boards in my 21 years of homeschooling, and you know what? It all boils down to your facilitator. Like beyond programs, if you like your facilitator, they get to know you, they get to know your children. I was with my facilitator for 11 years and she watched my kids grow up. She even went to their grads. And like your hairdresser, you follow around. If they change boards, you follow them because you love them. So yeah, it's, you know, don't overthink it. Pick a board. They all offer home education. They all support unschooling. If they don't, ask to switch facilitators. So you have someone who's more friendly, a better fit for you. And if you don't like that facilitator, ask for a different one, okay? And if not, change boards next year. It's only for 1 year. You can avoid them. Okay, question. I just bought a computer for my kids. Can I get reimbursed if I haven't technically given notice I'm going to school them myself? Yes, absolutely. Generally, school boards accept receipts from about March onward. So anything you bought from March to next May. So keep your Christmas presents receipts. Save those, and the bigger the receipt, the better. So it's just less paperwork. So absolutely, you can do that. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly, we're about go through. These are generally the subject areas in elementary. So as you can see, half the elementary program is focused on learning to read, learning to write, and doing some math. And the rest is kind of a little bit. Okay. So a lot of kids understand math in 3 dimensions. Experiential math from grades 1 to 8. And that's why you shouldn't really rush to get them online. They need to smell and see and hear math. Playing with Lego is a great way to learn math. They learn the 2x8 blocks. They learn the 2x2 blocks. They learn to sort colors. It's an awesome way to learn math skills. And reading, we live in a literate environment. So absolutely, your kids are most kids teach themselves to read. And it's like toilet training. It works when the brain is developmentally ready. It just clicks. So here's my child who didn't learn to read until age 10. And, you know, in a month, he's reading the Warrior series. And he's the kid now at, 18 who's read a 3-inch book. Science and social studies, again, you can learn a lot of that through going places, through the zoo, through the science center, through travel when we get to do that again. Online starts generally grade 5, 10 years. But even then, a lot of kids are not online learners. Don't push them to it. If they have to in high school, yes, but there's so many other ways to get hands-on materials. Here's some stores that are great, Scholar's Choice. If you can see, this is a net. This I use for grade 8 and 9 math. It teaches kids volume, so they can pull out this little plasticky thing and see surface area. It's a three-dimensional thing. Kids need to experience that. Okay, so there's lots of ways to buy things. And lots of ways to present things, like you can buy games. This is multiplication bingo. You can do story problems for math. You can do music. This is a cassette tape. Look how old that is. Here's these pattern blocks I was talking about. My kids love playing with these. And it just, they play with it when they're 7 to 10. And then when they're 13, 14, and they're learning spatial relations and figuring out variables, then it comes to life again. Same here. This is x squared plus x plus 3. Actually, sorry, this is minus x squared because it's red. But these are the beginning of math skills that they can learn hands-on. Okay, this is, I made these for my child with learning disabilities. These letters are about 2 feet tall. I cut them out, put tape on the carpet, and then I showed him how to jump from the 2 to the 3, and then the 2 to the 2. So he could actually experience it, and kids learn a lot better that way. Okay, last, find a support group. There's lots on Facebook. What about socialization? Oh, home education is more diverse than a classroom. Kids learn all ages, genders, abilities, cultures, religions. They have friends everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Peers are not always nurturing, but adults are. And I like to show this little picture of a tree. So yes, we protect our kids from bullying so that they can grow up straight and strong. And look at that tree. Now, as an adult, it can withstand the winds of bullying, where a child who has been exposed to so much of it may not. So keep that in mind. Your facilitator is your teacher, is a certified teacher, and is your partner. And what role can she help you with? Okay, you have 2 visits a year. And, oh yeah, like I said, there's no exams, no marks. You don't have to do any marks until you get to high school, and then maybe you want to, all children have to write diploma exams if they want credit. And by then, they are very self-educated children. So this is what you can use for assessment, a lot of photographs, videos, certificates. The child has a social visit. Your child will love to show your facilitator what they've done. Okay, what we did was we kept these little books here, and I divided them into math, science, social studies, phys ed. And anytime my kids did something through their play, maybe they were counting, I would just write it down under math, and there's my assessment, right? So, and then at the end of the year, you look at these and you think, wow, they learned so much. That's incredible. So you don't have to do a lot of record keeping. I would sit down once a month and say, okay, where did we go this year? Oh yeah, we went to the Science Center. I'm going to stick that under grade 6, aero and aerodynamics. Oh yeah, we went on a WestJet tour. I'm going to stick that under flight. Oh yeah, we saw the Perseids meteor shower. I'm going to put that under sky science, grade 6. So you can see, I kind of do this backwards, but once a month I just sit down and fill this out so my facilitator knows what we've done. Here is the final home visit report my facilitator did. So she just writes down how I assessed and comments of what he did. And then the beauty of that is they sign their name and say, yep, they have met the goals of education. And that's a legal document. So, if your ex-husband's complaining that your children aren't learning anything, you can say, ha, Look, they are. Okay, and lots of ways to get organized. You don't need a lot of stuff, but people love bookcases. So a lot of homeschoolers, set up a little table and a little chair here and a bookcase. And that's, you want a messy room for doing art and stuff. This is what I use to organize all my kids' administration stuff. And even through university, I put all their loan information and their transcripts and everything in there. Okay. It's like stepping off a cliff, but remember, it's only for a year. It's not for life. Go year by year. You have lots of peer support. You have a lot of your board support, and you absolutely can't stop kids from learning. They are sponges and curious, and we all homeschool till age 6. One of the biggest benefits, I think, is close family and siblings. Like my kids are living in different cities and countries now, and they still are best friends. They help each other. I had 3 in university at the same time, and they were all helping each other edit their essays. So it absolutely is tons of benefits. Your child has confidence and self-esteem in themselves as a learner. They get a lot of sleep, and that's so important for teenagers. It's relaxed for you. They have time for their interests. So, maybe when it's time to go to university, they might know what they want to do. Close siblings and the family is a focus, not peers, although they still have friends. They learn great work habits. They have a love of learning for its own sake, not just for pizza coupons. They have good social skills and a one-on-one customized education. This is one of our kids' graduations. Okay, now if you're homeschooling high school, that's a whole other webinar. And we do have that on our website under support. If you look under support, you will find the homeschooling high school. Okay, we have another question. So that's about all I'm going to present tonight. If you have to go, feel free to go. I'll just answer a few questions, and if you have questions, now's the time to do it. Can you mark if you want to? Oh, absolutely you can. If you want to grade assignments using rubrics, absolutely. And you can also, when you buy curriculum, you can get teachers' manuals that will help you mark. So you can do that. I was never interested. I didn't want to teach my kids, and I didn't want to mark either, and I didn't know how to mark. So, but there are lots of home educators that do that. Would home education be possible for working parents? Absolutely. Many work part-time. And like I said, many hire childcare arrangements that they can ask them to read to their children, to mark things, to teach things. Absolutely, you can outsource that if you want. Okay, yes, I'm going to post this presentation up on our website under the support tab. Okay, probably tomorrow morning, because I know a lot of people have partners that they might want to show to. And yeah, one thing I didn't mention too is, like, a lot of parents get together with other parents, and if you don't want to send your kids back to school this fall, you can start a co-op, a home education co-op. Maybe one parent will teach English, another parent will do the math, and similar age kids, you can rent a room at the library. We have done that. We get together once a week, and it becomes a real social event for the kids too. And, one parent can say, oh, I'm going to do a half an hour of math. You do a half an hour of science, and you keep it to like 10 kids, and it is fun and they learn. So you have that option too. There's a whole, you can almost call that a micro school that you take on. Okay, how does curriculum relate to which school board you choose? Are they tied or interchangeable? Every school board you choose, you can also choose your own curriculum or not use curriculum, but keep it on home education. You can choose on home education. You cannot choose if you sign up for distance education because that is school delivery. And every school board will support whatever you choose. If you decide to do a child-led, no curriculum program, every school board is supposed to support you in that.
That's a good accomplishment for them too. Grade 9.
Oh yeah, you can. A lot of home educated students graduate, and a lot of the school authorities present a graduation for them. So, for example, here, this picture was there was only 3 graduates for that school that year, and they rented a room at the Calgary Zoo, and they put on a dinner and a ceremony. And it's actually better because instead of your child graduating with 560 kids walking the stage over 4 hours, in 1 minute per stage time, your child in a smaller grad actually gets to get up and make a speech, and it's, they know everybody, and it's so much fun. A lot of the schools will do grad pictures, but you can also hire, again, outsource it. You can hire your own photographer. They'll get a grad gown. You can borrow the band from the school to get your picture done. And we went to Walmart, actually.
Oh, wow.
And they did an amazing job. And then we got family pictures done at the same time, right? And you can control that. It's not just a grad picture of your child. You can do all your siblings or your family around your grad.
Nice.
You can do whatever you want. A lot of parents get together, their family and friends, and go out for dinner or host a dinner. But it is a rite of passage, and your child will get a diploma in the mail, and maybe scholarships too.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, anybody else? Last chance for questions. Okay, I think we seem to be good here. Alrighty, so if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Here I am. This is my email. And I will post this recording up so you can watch it again. I went through it really fast, but I'd be interested if you have any more questions. Also, again, if you are looking at high school options, again, children can do a self-designed high school. They do not have to do online courses, but they do kind of have to follow the Alberta programs of study if they want marks and credits for that diploma. Now, that's a whole other webinar, and that webinar is under the support tab of our website at albertahomeschooling.ca. Okay, thank you everybody for coming tonight. Hope this was helpful. We'll see you maybe next week. We're doing these weekly, so please recommend them. Okay, bye-bye.